Miller here. This is the third series of my election theory series, and this is the third episode. If you have not watched the first episode on the plurality paradox or the second episode on the Borda count method, I encourage you to go back and watch those episodes. Today we're going to talk about a third method, which is called the runoff method. Now, last episode we talked about the Borda count method, which is when you assign points based on how they are voted on. In the runoff method, it's actually very simple. We're going to do what's known as the top two runoff method this particular week, and that is that you count up the total first place votes for each candidate, and you take the top two, and then everybody else gets eliminated, and then you recount the votes. Let me show you how this can work. So here's the results. CAB at 35%, BAC at 10%, ACB at 25%, and BCA at 30%. So we're just going to count the first place votes. So A had just here 25%, B had 10 and 30, which is 40%, and C had just 35%. So in this case, the top two would be B and C. So now we eliminate A. So I'm just going to cross A out, and then really the only one it's going to affect is this one. So now we're going to re-look at these votes here. So the only one that's going to change is this one. Instead of these 25 votes going to A, they're now going to go to C. So you can see how this changes the result. If we just did a plurality election, B would be our winner. But now that we eliminated A, we're going to transfer these votes to C. So these 25 votes get transferred to C. So we add 25 to the 35, and now C ends up with 45, 55, 60 votes, and C is our winner. That's the runoff method. And you can see the advantage of the runoff method is you're going to get a candidate that is more preferred as opposed to just a simple plurality method. Now, runoff methods are not without flaws, though. And in some cases, what can happen in a runoff method that is known as the runoff paradox is when there's the second and third place candidates are decided by just a few votes. And if those votes would have been switched, the winner of the election would be completely different. So it's not without flaws, but that's what's known as the top two runoff method, which is our focus for this week. And you can see it did change our winner, because when we did a plurality method, it was B, but when we did the runoff method, we got a new winner, which was C. What are your thoughts on the runoff method? Do you prefer that over the Borda count method, or do you prefer the plurality method? Let me know.